Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics. Today we're going to be looking at my pre-debate election prediction map. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And so, looking at the state of the race, we can hop on over to onpointpolitics.com, where I have an election model that is running in the background at all times. The odds are changing here and there. Donald Trump is currently favored at 76% odds to Harris's 23 to win the presidential election. There's probably a little bit of a rounding error. She should be at 24. But nonetheless, we are now here. And looking at the states, these are the odd margins for all of the states. So these are not the vote share margins, but are merely the odds of each state going in either direction. And right now, Donald Trump is winning a lot of the swing states fairly easily. And we got a lot of return mail-in data that is showing this to be the case in Pennsylvania and North Carolina and Georgia. We're getting a lot of data out of those states. And right now, Donald Trump is up in the average by roughly 2.5-ish. It's getting there, and Kennedy has fallen to 1.5% in the aggregate, so he's almost completely gone at this point. The undecideds have gone up immensely, so both candidates did drop. Undecideds are now back up, so that is quite interesting. And it's kind of funny that despite the undecideds, going up, both candidates didn't fall much. You probably have a couple more Kennedy voters and some third-party voters that may be defecting to the undecided column because they're not so sure who they're going to necessarily vote for yet. So this is, that might be something that might be what's going on there. That is definitely a sign, and we'll see how the average kind of develops over the next couple of weeks, because tomorrow is the presidential debate, and we'll definitely see a response bias one way or another depending on how that debate goes. I'm expecting Donald Trump to do pretty well in that debate. It's just, he's going to trap her on some issues that she can't run away from. Hiding Biden's mental capacity, her being the border czar. There's a lot of things he could pin her on, and it's really going to hurt her politically. And now, looking at the popular vote, if he's winning the popular vote by 2.5, like how my readjusted average has, which basically what it does is it essentially looks at all the polling data and you reweight to a tied electorate, and you get about a 2.5 point win in the popular vote instead of Harris being ahead by about 1. Now, looking at the Electoral College simulation histogram, we can see out of simulations that have 8 counts out of the 1,000, we see 194 all the way to about 272 are the max for Harris. So even in all the simulations that have above 8 counts, her best case scenario is winning 272. And in terms for Donald Trump, his lower case scenario with over 8 simulations is literally getting 247 Electoral College votes. His best case scenario with above 8 simulations is 344. So his chances of winning the Electoral College are a lot more likely, and the simulation was able to produce an Electoral College victory for him way easily, than compared to Harris. And we even see where there's a couple of big Harris wins that are like hidden here, but her best case scenario, I believe, in the Electoral College comes in at like 347. That's her best case. Literally, her best case scenario is 347 in the Electoral College, and that's like a really good night. Trump's best case is 435. Harris's worst case is 103. Trump's worst case is a 191 Electoral College defeat. So you don't have these crazy, results where Harris is getting 538. Like, that doesn't make any sense at all. And so this is where you get Donald Trump having such high odds to win the presidential election. And looking at the safe Republican states, we have Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, the Dakotas, as well as all of Nebraska's 2nd congressional district, including the state of Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, as well as the state of Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, and Missouri. These are going to be in the safe Republican column. Iowa and Ohio will also join the safe column, including the state of Texas, as well as South Carolina, Alaska, and Maine 2nd. Currently, in my election model, Texas is looking to be just above a 15-point win. It is a 58.1 to 49.1 percentage point margin. My polling average for the state, if we actually go over here to my X account, which you guys should follow in the description down below, by the way, And we also have a presidential debate stream at about 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. we can see I have a bunch of polling averages for all of the states that I've readjusted the polling data with, and it eerily looks fairly similar to this. And I mean, yes, we do use the polling data that I have, you know, as a little bit of a guide in some of these battlegrounds. Looking at like a state like Texas, when you reweigh the 4 polls that were in the aggregate to about a R+13, R+12 electorate, you get Trump +19 in the state of Texas. And the electorate in Texas was about R+10, R+11 back in 2020. So it's not like I'm waiting for something ridiculous. I'm waiting for something slightly redder because of the immigration issue. And you see Donald Trump is killing it in Texas. And so really that is kind of matching up. The margin I have right now, I mean, for Texas, which is about 18, 19-ish, is matching up with this polling average that I have. So that is fairly fascinating to see. Looking at the safe Democrat states, you got California, Hawaii, DC, Maryland, Massachusetts, and Vermont. That's literally it. Just the 85 electoral college votes. As you can see, California is actually a little bit below 20 points. It's like right on the dot of 20. Hawaii right now actually looks like it's about to be under 15. And looking at Massachusetts, you know, those are like about 30-ish point wins. Maryland is kind of in that range. DC is a humongous win. I mean, Trump literally has a less than 1% chance to win DC. When looking at some of these states, they're also relatively close as well. And so Donald Trump does have the clear advantage with the electorate, considering how little safe states there are for Democrats compared to 2020, when they had about quite a few safe states. They had about 181 electoral college votes in the safe column. Now they almost have 100 less than that. Looking at those likely states, you're going to have Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Arizona, and Nevada be in the likely Republican column for the former president, which would give him a pretty easy electoral college win. And that's what's on his pace to do. I mean, that's what he's on pace to do. He's winning Wisconsin by a little bit over 6 by polling average right now. If we actually look at the Wisconsin average, you have about, 9 polls. And when you weigh for an R+8 electorate, which is about 2 points redder than the last election, we see Trump is up by literally 7 points in the average, which is absolutely insane. And what I've noticed is Kennedy is really pushing his margins in some states. Now, New Hampshire hasn't really came out with new polling, so you haven't seen that gone through yet, but it is very, very apparent in a lot of the swing states where we have a decent amount of polling in as time has gone on. When Kennedy goes down, Trump goes significantly up in the states. Like, Harris barely gains anything from the Kennedy voters in the swing states, and a lot of the times the undecideds will go up as Harris is going down or going up. So literally what's happening is there's still some voters that are undecided left. Like, you also saw undecideds go down in some states. Like, the state with the most undecideds is Maine. Like, that one's going to be really weird. I do expect it to be really close, more closer than what people were expecting to be. Again, only 1 poll in the average. But even like New Hampshire, like, Trump's up by 2 with 3 polls in the field. And I weighed the electorate for half of what I had at last time. Now, again, Kennedy is still pretty high. They haven't polled the state. And the reason why I've left Kennedy in these averages is because I want people to see where his support goes over time in the swing states. Eventually, he's going to get to 0%. I mean, he's going to have to in all the battleground states by the time we get there. So we'll see how that transpires. And we'll see where the support kind of ends up. And it seems like Donald Trump is gaining the lion's share of that support. That is what's happening right now. Looking at Wisconsin, that's a pretty large win in the model. I mean, he's winning it by 6 and change. Looking at Georgia, he's winning that sucker by, 7.5 to 8. Like, that's a huge win there. If we look at a state like North Carolina, you see he's winning that by a little bit over 8 points. Florida, he's winning that state by around 11-ish right now. That's what I have in my forecast. Arizona, he is up there by quite a bit. He's actually almost up there by 8 points. I mean, he's doing very well in Arizona. SoCal Strategies just did a poll out of Maricopa, and they had Trump up 5 against Biden. And that would have produced a R+5 statewide popular vote if you would have shifted the county from D+2 to R+5. So clearly, there is a large influence in Maricopa here, and there is a lot of Hispanics that are moving to Trump. And if he's doing that well in Arizona, he's probably also going to win Nevada too. Nevada has also been trending to the right. while Arizona's been trending to the left. However, this cycle, I think the leftward trend in Arizona may stagnate because of immigration. And that's what we see in my polling average. I mean, right now in my polling average in Arizona, like Trump is doing really good in Arizona's polling average. He's up by 6.8%, and he's actually above 50, by the way. He's above 50% in Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina. He's above 50 in all of those states. So again, and he's getting close to 50 in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. Nevada, he's at 49.4. And so it's like he's above 50% in North Carolina, Georgia, and Arizona in all of the polling, which is absolutely bonkers. So I'd say he's guaranteed those at this point. In terms of calling the states, I'd say he's got those three. And so really it comes down to Pennsylvania, because if Pennsylvania doesn't go for Kamala Harris, it's over. The race would practically be done at that point, if that were to be the case. But if Arizona's really that certain to go to Trump, where he's really getting over 50%, like he's really like at 51.3%, even if Harris were to get all the undecideds, she still loses the state by a pretty decent margin anyway. So, and those undecideds, we'll see how they break, but it's going to be kind of iffy with them. And then, you know, Kennedy has dropped a lot in the average. So, and what's happened is, you see Kennedy really help Trump. Like, he's going to really help him more than what most political analysts are realizing. He's going to really help Trump in some of those key states. And if he has a good debate performance against Kamala Harris, it's going to get even worse for Harris. Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Illinois, the Connecticut, as well as New Jersey, Delaware, Rhode Island, New York, Maine's first, are all going to be in the likely Democrat column. Again, underperformances from 2020, but nowhere near under the 5-point mark. I'd say the closest ones are Colorado and New Jersey. I mean, right now, New Jersey is like a 7-point win for Harris, and Colorado's like about an 8 or 9 for Harris, maybe even 7 points. And so you kind of have these swing states left up for grabs. And we see here Minnesota and New Mexico, I mean, those are competitive. But looking at Michigan first, I mean, Trump's up here by 4, guys. He's up here by 4. And just to state about Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, we've gotten ballot returns from these states. Pennsylvania, there's about 131 missing Democrats so far. Like, they're underperforming there. North Carolina, the modeling that data analyst Connor has done is looking really bad for Kamala Harris. You know, he has the state as literally a 6-point victory, 6 to 7-point win. I have it a little bit higher than that. But he found with RFK, you know, basically not being on the ballot, it would help Trump quite significantly. And you may make it a possibility where it's going to get to a point where Kennedy, you know, if you leave him on the ballot, you may actually be hurting yourself, because if you leave him on, you're going to basically, by the time we get to the election, every Kennedy voter that was swayable would have just ended up voting for Trump or sat out the election. Really, the only Kennedy people that are going to still vote for Kennedy left are people that can't stomach either candidate, which would just hurt Harris regardless. So at the end of the day, it's going to end up hurting Harris to begin with. And looking at these states, I mean, right now, Virginia is in the lean Democrat column in the modeling right now. It's about like a 3-point victory or so. But when you look at my polling average in the state, it's actually very competitive. It's only a 0.8 percentage point margin in the state of Virginia, and we're weighing for about a D+1 electorate, which is kind of what it was back then. I think it's a point redder than what it was in 2020. And so when you weigh for that, Virginia is super competitive. Now, they're both at 45%, and there's about 7% undecided, so that state's a little bit more unclear. You could kind of really go either way. But when we do look at a state like, you know, for example, Maine, I mean, there's only one poll out of there. And right now, it is a lean margin in the forecast. I mean, that is actually Harris's best lean state. Now, it only got cut down to about 3.5 now. So there is a little bit of an underperformance. And now we get to the tilt Republican and Democrat states. I actually have New Hampshire going. Nebraska's second, I think, is going to Donald Trump. I believe it is. if we look at it, yes, it is going to Donald Trump narrowly, and so is the state of New Hampshire. New Hampshire is actually voting to the right of Nebraska second here, and the reason why that's happening, and again, I am going to make a video today explaining why New Hampshire is going to be competitive this cycle. I actually had Jeremiah Watson, a friend of mine on X, he reweighed all the polling data properly, and it has a lead of Harris of literally plus 0.23. So it literally can go either way. Like, the race will be close. Like, it's definitely possible I get it wrong. It could be Till Blue or Lean Blue instead of Till R or Lean R, but it's definitely going to come down to the wire a lot more than people are expecting it to be, and I do have it flipping into Donald Trump's column. Minnesota and New Mexico are not flipping yet right now. I mean, Donald Trump's going to do a lot better with white voters in New Mexico and Hispanics, and that's why there's going to be such a large shift from 2020, and you're going to see the state probably shift to the right or trend to the right by like 4 to 5 points. Like, it's going to start voting closer to the center of the nation for sure. And Minnesota is going to be in that competitive territory come election day. And so right now, Donald Trump, right before the presidential debate, is winning 317 electoral college votes to Harris's 221 electoral college votes. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. But before you guys do go, make sure to go to betonline.com. This is a sports betting website that also has political odds, and we can see who is favored to win the presidential election. We're currently right now, Donald Trump is the favorite to win that. You can bet on each individual state. You can vote based on the margin of the states. You can look at Biden's special, so Biden's approval rating by October 1st, looking at Hunter Biden to pardon Sam Bankman-Fried and to pardon Hunter Biden. We also see that as well. You can also bet on the presidential debate, which is another interesting, fascinating thing to look at. So there's many things to look on the site. So make sure to go to the description down below. You'll see a lot of odds you can bet on. And so I will see you guys in the next video, and I will just see you tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for live coverage of the presidential debate. You will not want to miss that at all.